Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, welcome to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and I am absolutely thrilled to be here and thrilled that you're here with me. I hope you guys are doing great, having a wonderful time with what's remaining of your weekend, but don't think about it that way. I think that we program our realities, and so just know that tomorrow's going to be awesome. Tomorrow is going to be the most amazing Monday ever. And I don't know how. I don't know why. I will tell you that we've been just teetering on the precipice here for days now, and it's absolutely maddening. And I hate that this happens. I wish I knew how it happens, because it literally drives me up a freaking wall. And then I'm like so OCD about it that I keep checking, and it's still just right on the edge. What the hell am I talking about? I'm talking about the fact that we've been teetering at the edge of 9,000 subs for about 4 days now. I mean, we go up to 8,997, then down to 8,994, then 8,995, and then it's just bouncing back in there. And it's like someone's at YouTube's going, oh, let's turn it down a little bit. Oh, let's turn it up, getting closer. Nope, down. You know, it's just like, oh my God, just go to 9,000. And it's just maddening. I don't know how the hell happens, but we're sitting there. So if you know somebody that would love to be involved in the Paranormal Portal, by all means, let them know, so we can tip past that 9,000 point, because I'm telling you, we've got an absolute blowout extravaganza planned for 10,000 subs. And it might be a year from Christmas, the way this is going. I don't know what the hell's going on. It's so funny, because usually it would be like 10, 12, 15 subs a day. You know, I mean, it's just boom, 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 boom. But once it gets close to these tipping points, it just gets really funky in there. And it's like, oh my God. And it's probably my own fault, because I just keep checking it and checking it and checking it. It's the watch pot that never quite boils. I don't know why. Don't know why it does it. But I will tell you that I'm not alone here. I've got my firstborn, the first fruit of my loins. The first fruit. I like that. My firstborn son, my co-host for the night, Mr. Let me get this ready. I can't quite introduce him yet because I don't have a screen ready, but now I do. Mr. Sheldon Thomas. Welcome to the show, buddy.
Hello, everyone. Hopefully everybody's doing good. I know I am, now that we have started the show.
Now that we started, and now you got done hearing me whine about that, about the sub count. Oh my God.
You know, we're so close. I can understand, though. We're so close.
You can understand?
I mean, it's like being at 19 on the volume meter. You just want to turn it up to the whole number, that can be divisible by 5 or 2, or, it's just so much better that way.
Or like when you're pumping gas and you're trying to get it right at $20 and
yes,
and hit up at $20.15 or something stupid.
I mean, guys, imagine you're stopping at 8.99 gallons. You can't stop there. You got to go up to 9.
Yeah. Well, that's where I am. That's where I am with it. And it's absolutely driving me crazy. It's like, I mean, seriously, it'll be like 10, 15, 20 subs a day. And then all of a sudden it gets to these tipping points and it's like, ooh, I don't understand. Somebody at YouTube is just screwing with me. They're like, nope, yep, getting closer. No, not yet. They know that it's driving me into therapy. But anyway, so I'm just really excited for us to get to the 10,000 sub mark, because we really do have a great show planned. I'm really excited to do it. We're going to do games with you guys, all you listeners out there, call-in games, trivia. We're going to do giveaways. We're going to have special guests on. It's going to be an absolute blowout. But we're still 1,000 subs, 1,006 subs away, or 5 or 4 or something like that. So we got to get there. I'm telling you, I'm going to need therapy by the time we hit 10,000 subs.
I'm going to be a straight check. 899.
Yeah, I'll be like Rain Man over there in the corner. Well, there's on that chicks. I don't know. It is what it is, folks, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
One way or another, enough people will wander into our lobby. And thanks to those sticky traps I put down in there, they'll stay. It's like a roach motel. No, I'm just kidding. But I am excited for it. It's coming. But anyway, we got an extraordinary show on the board here tonight for you. We're We're going to go through the Cryptid Corner, of course, of the Night Terrors. The Night Terrors are shorter format shows for those of you who are maybe newer to the shows. We do about an hour, and we talk about different phenomena. Tonight is going to be the Cryptid Corner because we've been showcasing Sasquatch Chronicles shorts with special thanks to Wes Germer and his show Sasquatch Chronicles for letting us do that. But we got a good one on deck for tonight. It should be an epic, and it's a 30-minute one, so it's pretty big presentation. So we'll be getting to that, and we're going to get to some other little things. And remember, throughout the course of the show, the phones will be open, but if we're watching a video at that time, just be patient. We're not going to get to the call till after that. So, but the phone number for the show is 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500. 0500. Those are the numbers for fun right here on the Paranormal Portal. And if you forget, what's that number? Just look above my head. It's right up there. Right up there. You'll see it. It's little numbers on top of my skull. So floating right under the words Paranormal Portal on your screen. So it's always up there for your reference. So anyway, let's see. I don't know, Sheldon. I can't think of anything else. Did I forget anything? Oh, email. If you want to email the show, you've got some paranormal thing you'd like to share and don't want to call in, or you want to be a guest on the podcast and you got a bunch of things to share with me, by all means, please email me at paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. Again, paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. And I will get back to you as soon as I can. I've got a few of them floating around in there that I've been got to get back to and got to schedule in. Some really good shows on the way. By the way, speaking of the podcast, tonight the new episode comes out. So it was an interview I did with Mr. Jack Carey. And Jack Carey's been a cryptozoologist and a paranormal investigator for decades. He's a really good guy, really fun to talk to, has some really fantastic ideas. And if you've never heard him speak before, you're going to want to check it out. He's also an author of several books that are available on Amazon, so you can check it out. But that'll be coming out tonight, so don't miss it. Don't. All right. Anything, Sheldon?
I got nothing.
Okay. Well, that's a good place to start. I guess all I can tell you is I hope you're ready because it's time for bed. Boom. There we go. There we go, folks. We are now live and underway here on the Paranormal Portal. And again, we're going to be getting into the Cryptid Corner tonight. What's up, Isaac? Why don't we talk about who's here? Let's see. We got a few names
shout-outs
popping out. Let's see who's here for shout-outs. We got Addie Overbay is here. Android Purity's here. Asset Ramses is here. Barb G is here. Brooks is here. Daryl Zierlin is here. Zierlein. Elaine Clifford is here. Herman Vera is here. Isaac Areola is here. Jocelyn Richardson is here. John Orr is here. Maggie M10. Somebody just popped in up above. Somebody snuck in. I think it was Brooks. Okay. Kirk Robinson is here. Again, Maggie M10. Portal Mom is here. How you doing, Portal Mom? Hope you're doing good. Rachel Gets It Right is here. Rebecca 79. Richard Elmore. Sheldon, you're here. Sugar Britches is here. And Wen Wilson.
Hey.
What?
Oh, you said, Sheldon, you're here. I'm like, no way.
No way. Seriously. Way. Not no way. It's way. Because your name's
way
on my list. All right. Android Purity just popped up too. So we've got a few of them here. I hope I said Herman. Herman, you're here. If I didn't say you, I apologize. I'm just looking through the chat here to see if somebody else came in. Looks like I got it all. Hey, all, John Orr just came in. How you doing, John Orr? Welcome to the show. That's a new name. I don't think I've seen that before, but welcome to the show. Hope you enjoy yourself. Just please keep your hands and legs inside of the vehicle at all times, because I can't be held responsible for what happens as we go through the portal. So, gotta remain safe. Love the show. Oh, thank you, John. Well, we love you too. And I love
Thank you,
that you
Shane.
showed up. I hope you're subscribed. If you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button because
Dude,
right at
now.
9,000 subs, we're almost there. Just a couple more. Could be through the course of the show we'll hit 9,000 subs. I don't know. Just saying, it's possible. So if you're not already subscribed, please get subscribed. I don't know. It's like my tongue just forgets what his job is for a second there. All right. Anyway, we're getting into the Cryptid Corner tonight, ladies and gentlemen, and as such, we're going to talk about some of the big feet. Again, we're going to be doing a video of the Sasquatch Chronicles shorts, courtesy of Wes Germer and Sasquatch Chronicles. That'll be coming up. But first, I got an article here I want to go through. This is from Bro Bible. It's actually called Bro Bible. I don't know what that means. If it's like, hey, bro, this is our Bible, or like, a book, or if it's biblical or whatever. But anyway, it's a new 10-foot tall Bigfoot sighting in Minnesota town considered to be a hotspot for encounters.
Man,
now,
there's a lot of places in Minnesota that get hit with encounters.
They get hit, yeah. Well, this is from August 11th, so this is really pretty recent. It was written by Douglas Charles, who wrote this for the Bro Bible, and we're going to check out what he's got to say. It says, a Bigfoot sighting was recently reported around Germer, Minnesota, a town that calls itself the home of Bigfoot. Did you know that, Sheldon?
Say it again?
Germer, R-E-M-E-R, Minnesota, is a town that calls itself the home of Bigfoot. Did you know that?
I had no idea. No.
Oh, there you go. See, there's a lot more Bigfoot culture in Minnesota than you knew.
Awesome.
The Bigfoot sighting was corroborated by the Minnesota Bigfoot Research Team, MNBRT, which is a thing that exists. Well, yeah, of course it exists. The Minnesota Bigfoot Research Team, of course they exist. Apparently there's more Bigfoot news if I click there, but I'm not going to do that right now. It says narrowing down the most likely locations as the home of Bigfoot has become much more difficult as of late. It says difficultly, but I think I know what they meant. Perhaps there are multiple Bigfoots, big feet, ? Out there. This sounds familiar. I might have read this one before, but I'm going to read it again anyway. Numerous credible Bigfoot sightings have been reported all over the United States over the past couple of years in places like Iowa, Michigan. Iowa should certainly be added to the list of potential habitats for the mythical cryptid, which already includes states of Oregon, the Florida Panhandle, Northern California, Oklahoma, North Carolina, and West Virginia. Boy, whoever wrote this is really out of touch, because I'm here to tell you, according to the BFRO and many other sites, there's only one state in the United States that doesn't have claims of Bigfoot, and that's Hawaii.
Really?
That's Hawaii. So there are reports from every other state in the United States. So that is a very short list they included in this article. Now we've got another Bigfoot sighting in the area around Germer, Minnesota, a town of just 388 people that calls itself the home of Bigfoot. Yeah, because nobody else lived there. Sorry. That was easy. I had to take it. Sorry about that.
Low-hanging fruit. There it is.
I've never been to Germer, though. I don't know. It sounds like a really tiny thing, though. I am an ex-Minnesotan, so I'm quite familiar with the state, but Germer is not a town I've ever visited. It says, according to a report filed by the Minnesota Bigfoot Research Team, on 7/26/21 at about 9:15 p.m., road crossing driver. What's a road crossing driver?
It's a good question.
Yeah. Was heading east. Creature was seen in the middle of the road and went north. Driver got approximately 300 to 400 feet away before it moved to the north, every bit of 10 feet tall, the semi-truck driver said, and black. The Minnesota MNBRT added the comments of the post when asked for an exact location that the specifics are confidential. Germer, for those unfamiliar, was the site of an annual Bigfoot conference due to the large number of encounters locals have had with the legendary cryptid over the years. Their newspaper is called the Pinecone Press Citizen. Oh, no.
The Pinecone I love it. I actually love that.
That is really cool. The Pinecone Press Citizen writes, around here, the stories of Bigfoot began to surface in the late 1800s. People made mention of something in the woods here or there, and finally it became more than a coincidence. A flash of dark in the pines, a large set of footprints along a swamp. Sightings in the same areas became more frequent. Sightings from people other than loggers made people take notice. Rumor has it that William P. Reamer found tracks in the early 1900s. Mr. Reamer was the founder of Reamer, Minnesota, and that gave some credibility to the story. Some people began to worry, although there were never reports of any dogs or livestock disappearing, just your occasional something moving through the brush, and it wasn't a bear or a deer. Most of the tracks were in the woods east of Reamer, but they were also in other areas. The tracks were huge. They were much bigger than a man's foot, and they sunk deep in the earth. Visual sightings happened in basically every direction around Reamer, and they were usually brief, almost like Bigfoot vanished into thin air. There was never any damage done. There were no thefts, no injuries, nothing disappeared or died. Just sightings, tracks, and occasionally more. Every once in a while, someone would find a small tuft of hair, dark hair, on the side of a balsam fir tree, and there were stories of depressions on the ground that were lined with grass or pine boughs that were assumed to be beds. Most of these were found in the area south and west of Shingle Mill Lake. Occasionally, people would leave small piles of berries or vegetables that they had picked out of their garden near the beds. Always within a day or two, the piles were gone without a trace, but assumedly appreciated. Yeah, like it could only be Bigfoot that would eat those piles. I'm sure nothing else would touch those.
No way.
No, I know I've read this article before, so it's kind of redundant. In fact, I remember making a wise ass remark in that before. So,
okay.
So I was just kind of rerunning that as well. But by 1910, sightings were more common, and people seemed to peacefully coexist with Bigfoot. In fact, there was the year that he gained his name, people around Reamer talked fondly of Bigfoot, and when someone had seen them last, "Have you seen Bigfoot today?" could be heard all around town. There was more than one, different sizes, and there were even Bigfoot children. "Saw Bigfoot at lunch today," husbands would tell their wives. "He disappeared behind the branches in the black spruce tree." It seemed like Bigfoot had certain patterns, certain feeding, bedding, and bathing patterns. They often bathed near the lowland in the southeast corner of the main portion of Big Sand Lake. Townspeople avoided that area so as not to disturb the Bigfoot family. Everyone liked having them around. They were interesting and mysterious, and Bigfoot fed on plants, berries, tree leaves, and buds in all areas, but primarily bedded in the dense forest to the east of Reamer. The stories continued through the 1920s and 1930s. However, as the forests were cut, it seemed that the families of Bigfoot moved to other areas of the state and attempted to stay in the more densely forested areas. There were still sightings, but not in the usual areas and not as often. Sometimes, because it was just so commonplace, people would see them and just not say anything. It was like they were neighbors. That's sweet. It's kind of sweet. It says back in 2009, Reamer was first featured on the Animal Planet show Finding Bigfoot, and has since been visited by the crew a total of 3 times as they search for the legendary Squatch. We had Bobo on the show. That was a good time. Had a good conversation.
Yeah.
Local radio station 98.1 FM also lists multiple encounters with Bigfoot in the area. One of the most notorious sightings is from an area in recent years was a trail cam photo from 2009 in October. The author writes, Tim Kudrowski thought the picture taken on his hunting land north of Reamer was a buddy messing with him, but after he checking, found that no one even knew where the camera had been set up. This 2009 sighting wasn't the only one in the area. Cass County has had multiple sightings over the years, according to the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization. One of them was even from someone who worked for the U.S. Forestry Service in Chippewa National Forest. So is Reamer, Minnesota, the true home of Bigfoot, and not places like Kenobi, Oklahoma, or Littleton, North Carolina? Some people certainly believe it. Well, there you go. There is a...
Do you know where Hill City is in Minnesota?
No, not familiar with that.
You know Grand Rapids?
I know the name Grand Rapids, yeah.
Okay, it's in the northern half of Minnesota, just southeast or southwest of Grand Rapids.
Okay.
Town of Reamer.
Oh, Reamer.
I was just looking at it,
Okay.
trying to follow along with the story, see where they were.
Okay. Well, I know the north is pretty sparsely populated in Minnesota. The North Woods are pretty dense. Not a lot of elevation so much, but I mean you get up to the boundary waters between U.S. and Canada, and it's just desolate. There's hardly anything up there. So there's a lot of real estate for them to hang out, but I don't think that they just stay there. Again, My encounter was down in the southeast part of Minnesota, where I had that growling behind me. But then again, I don't think they need swaths of huge forested lands. I think they just need forested lands. They just need waterways, and they're pretty much at home anywhere. So, that's just my opinion, of course, but I know I'm not alone in that. I know that I've heard many people echo that statement or that sentiment. So anyway, that's Reamer, Minnesota, Sheldon. Could be knocking on your door.
Maybe.
Yep. There'd be little kids, little Squatch kids. Have you given to Harry's kids instead of Jerry's kids? See what I did there? Sorry.
Oh, that low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, I know. Just I'm a regular harvester over here.
You really are. Yeah.
I just grab hold of everything I can. But if it's cheap, it's easy, and I'll take it, by God, because I don't want to struggle for my humor. I'll just grab it where I find it.
Yeah.
Okay, so where are we at for time, first of all? Oh, that's about perfect. Okay, I guess, folks, it's time to dive into tonight's Germer files. So I hope you guys are ready. Are you ready, Sheldon?
Always.
See, I mouth the words always.
Oh, okay. All right.
I knew it. I like that you're excited. That's good.
You played me like a fiddle.
All right. Let's continue on. I can't even touch that one without being real creepy, so I'm going to leave that alone.
Oh, God.
I'm just not even going to do anything there. All right, folks, let's go to the Germer files, and we'll see what tonight's story is all about.
And we went out to Caddo Lake State Park is where we set up our camp. And we usually like to camp on our summer trips during the week when there's not anybody around the weekends. And little to our knowledge, when we got up to Caddo Lakes just south of Texarkana on the Texas-Louisiana border, there was really nobody there at all. It was like we were the only people that checked in on Monday. And that's the way it was up until we went to leave on Thursday. It's like we were the only people in the entire campgrounds. When we first got there and we got to the state park and everything, we'd met the little lady at the little check-in thing and everything was fine. And then when we got she basically told us we could pick any campsite we wanted to because we were the only ones there through like Wednesday or Thursday. So we kind of drove around, riding with, Brian and stuff. And we finally found one that was kind of like out of the way. And it was, it was a nice little section of like forest and stuff like that. So we were sitting there unpacking and everything. And one of the park rangers was riding by and he kind of stopped and got out. And, me and Craig, our younger brother, we went out there to meet him while, we made Brian put up the tent because, we can't do it. We can't do anything right on these trips anyway. So we just let him do that. Well, when me and Craig were just small talking with the ranger, he's like, if y'all need anything, I'm going to give y'all my contact number. He's like, and I thought it was kind of weird. And he said, if y'all notice anything weird or out of the ordinary, don't be afraid to call me because I live a little bit off campus, like off the campgrounds a little bit. And I was like, what do you mean by weird? He's like, well, we have a lot of like people that come here that experience like weird things, like things walking around their campsites at night, things disappearing from their campsites and stuff like that. But he never got into what that really meant. I guess me, like, just kind of like researching the area and stuff like that, I kind of had a feel of what he was trying to say, but I don't think he really wanted to like come out and say it. He kind of sounded like halfway skeptical and halfway like maybe he knows more than what he wanted to say, but he didn't want to come out and say like, there's Sasquatch here, run for your life or nothing like that. So I kind of went back and told Brian about it. And, he's, like he said, the dad of the trip. So he kind of just played it off. But, and I guess, Brian kind of shares the same feeling as me. Our younger brother, he's just,
he's out there. He does his own thing, but it was like a feeling like, I don't know, it wasn't like a normal woods feeling. And I don't know if you've ever been to Caddo Lake, but it's just like it's not like a typical, like, you can hear the birds chirping and it's all happy-go-lucky, like, forest setting. It's like, once you get there and you get settled, it's almost like a really eerie feeling the whole time you're there. And literally, it's probably one of the few places I've been, like, when I've camped. Like, I'll never tent camp anywhere again because of what happened there. We cooked dinner and stuff like that, and then we kind of drove around. We tried fishing a little bit. So I want to say we came back, we made our campfire and stuff, and we knew there was going to be some storms, but we didn't think it was going to be like as bad as it turned out to be. But the first night we were there, that Monday night, we got a pretty little rainstorm and stuff like that. So we had to go into the tent, and this is probably about 10:30, 11, something like that. And we were inside the tent just, hanging out, chilling and stuff like that. And, you could hear like the smaller animals running around, like raccoons, armadillos and stuff like that. But I want to say we probably went to sleep probably about 12:30-ish or something like that. And the rain had picked back up because I remember I had woke up. I thought I heard something off in the distance. And so I kind of woke up my brother, Brian, and I was like, hey, man, listen. And you could hear something almost kind of like walking a perimeter around our camp. And I want to say it was probably a good 30, 40 yards away. And, we're both football coaches, so you'll hear us use the yard terminology a lot, Wes. But this thing was not like a deer walking around. This was stuff like walking heavily, breaking big branches on the ground when it was walking. I mean, it was loud enough where it woke up our younger brother, and he was just like, what the hell is that? And I know, like, when I watch like UFC fights and stuff like that, I'll sit there and like notice my fists are clenched because I'm just like, the tension. And that's how I remember we had our flashlights on in the tent, and I told everybody to turn their lights off. It's like as soon as we turned off the lights, like everything got quiet for like 5 minutes. And then we tried not to say nothing, and then we could hear the walking like start picking back up. And this walking around the tent continued for, I want to say, at least from like 1 a.m. till at least 2:30 in the morning. At times you could hear, and I know the wind was blowing, but I don't think branches were falling off the trees that frequently. It was almost to me like something was walking around trying to scare the hell out of us, and not only like breaking big branches, but it almost seemed like, to me, like it was like ripping off the lower branches as it walked around like the area.
For myself, it was in a sense that I was kind of like in protective mode, protecting my brothers. I was very keened on to the noise. I've been hunting most of my life. I've been in the woods. I've been in the woods overnight hunting. I've been around big hogs, big boars, deer, and it was not the sound of a typical, hog or a deer or any other animal. I started thinking possibly bear, but no, this was more of a lumbering, slow, heavy, very heavy steps that you could hear, in the near us, going around us. And kind of, I wonder if I remember correctly, it was kind of a clockwise motion around the tent through the thick woods.
Yeah.
And, I don't know if it was, you sometimes hear about smells. We didn't really smell anything. It was just, it was the rain and the wind that was coming down anyway. Yeah, I heard the branches breaking, and every time one would break, I would kind of look and be like, look at Jason and be like shaking my head, say, no, whatever, it's somebody messing with us. But the more it went on, the more I kept thinking, this to me was almost like an animal scoping us out from a distance, seeing what was going on. Our fire had already gone out, so it was smoldering, but it was almost like they were just almost casing us out. And it was a very creepy feel. I know they close the gates to this place at night and they lock it down. Doesn't mean that somebody couldn't have walked up in there, and if you ever get a chance to see this place, I mean, it's like when Jason was alluding to, this is not your typical, hey, let's go camping with the family place. This is a deep, dark place with your willow, the willow trees that come down, that they touch the water. It's swampy and it's dark. It's mysterious looking, and it was just, I don't know, I had a weird gut feeling that first day when we got there that there was something watching us. It just felt that way. But being skeptical too at the same time, I was like, man, it could be somebody that walked in here and they're just messing with us. It was first night didn't sleep a whole lot, and it was it was very spooky, very creepy feel to the whole trip to begin with at that point.
We're usually like gung ho to like wake up the next morning and, you know, to knock out like the first day of like morning fishing. But there was just kind of like this, I ain't gonna lie, it was almost like we saw the sun come up, and we're usually on the water before the sun comes up. And it was almost like who was going to be the first one to unzip the tent. And we, you know, you really didn't say nothing to each other. And then Brian finally like got up and like, you know, I guess we'll go try to go fishing. And he unzipped his tent, and like me and Craig were just like staying back in the corner of the tent. Like, you know, if he gets ripped out of the tent, you know, we're just booking it out the other end, you know. But, you know, and it's like, as soon as we came out, and, you know, it almost felt like when the sun came up, like it almost, you still had that eerie feeling, but it was almost like, I don't know, it was almost like that. You didn't feel like that presence was on you, like when we first got there. And so we went, you know, we did our little morning fishing and stuff like that. We came back around noontime. We had lunch and stuff, and it started raining again about noontime, and it got real overcast, so it kind of cooled down a little bit. So my little brother was like, you know, why don't we just go off the beaten track and, you know, see if we can see anything. So we pulled up the park map, and we kind of saw where like the park ends at. So we all got in Brian's truck, and we each got like a little walkie-talkie that we got. And so we drove to the edge of the state park by the last little boat ramp. And the state park has like a little trail that kind of starts off there, and it kind of like, it does a big loop around the state park and stuff like that. So we kind of started on that path. And then when the path ended, we can kind of see like where the woods really started. So we decided, all right, let's all continue on this path for a little bit, and then we'll break off 3 different directions and just kind of stay in communication. So we all kind of 3 started our own path, and our youngest brother, Craig, he veered off on his own, being the youngster, and he started walking off on his own. So me and Brian can kind of continued on our own little path for a little bit. And the area that we kind of got to kind of had like I'm not going to say it was like a Grand Canyon ravine, but for Texas, it was a pretty nice sized ravine on one side where we were walking. Probably about, Brian, how far you say, about 30 yards from the ravine was the barbed wire?
Yeah, I'd say.
Yeah, 20, 30 yards, give or take, was this barbed wire fence that just came out of nowhere. Like it was somebody's property, like way off the beaten path of the state park. So me and Brian started walking along that barbed wire fence. And I probably say we walked on this fence for probably about 20, 30 minutes and just kind of like taking everything in. It was like the normal forest feeling, because even though we were still in the state park area, we weren't around like the real swampy area and stuff like that. We're in like in the woods now. So me and him continued walking on that barbed wire fence, just kind of hugging the trail as we went, because it was either barbed wire fence, forest, or it was like ravine. And so we kept walking, and then we kind of noticed up ahead of us, probably about, you know, like half a football field away from us, we saw like this big obstruction on the barbed wire fence. So we were just like, you know, what in the world is that? So we started walking up on it closer. And, you know, it's kind of like I explained to you, Wes, like whenever you see like power lines being put through a forest, there's like a clearing on both sides. Well, on either side of the barbed wire fence, you had like your tall grasses and your shrubs. And then probably about 20, 30 yards away from the barbed wire fence is where the forest started picking up at. So we started like walking down to see what this big old mass was. And it's just, when we finally walked up on it, it was a giant section of a tree, probably about 6 or 7 foot tall. It was wide enough where I could have put my arms around it and my fingers still wouldn't have touched. and it looked like it was taken and just thrown on the barbed wire fence. And the barbed wire fence was like a completely slumped over. On each side of the log, there was a massive puddle on both sides of the log, like the entry point and the exit point, where it looked like something was using that log as like an exit over the barbed wire fence or an entry. And it was super muddy where you couldn't really see the indentations or anything like that, because it looked like it was heavily used like for a long time. And from there, we kind of like, we both kind of like looked at each other like, and then you kind of look around and like, look where the tree could have came from. And there's no way that big old section of that tree could have got there, falling out of another tree or doing something like that. And the whole premises of, why was it the only one even close to the barbed wire fence like that? And with all the stuff and Wes, we're so far away from civilization at this point. I mean, I know it wasn't like a bunch of teenagers using that as their little fence jumping things, stuff like that. So from there, I started walking off on my own way. I kind of like backtracked and went back some of the other way. I was kind of worried about our little brother because we ain't heard from him. So I told Brian, just keep walking, and then I'm gonna go back and see if I can find Craig and get him and rally him back to us. So, and I think the rest kind of picks up where Brian's part comes in.
I remember, I agree with Jason, looking at the log and everything. I remember looking to see if there was a root system, like it had fallen out, and there was nothing. This thing had been placed there somehow to make it an easier access over this old rustic barbed wire fence that had been there for who knows how long. Jason took off. Obviously, he was worried about Craig, because we were trying to make it where we would check in every 15, 20 minutes with each other, and he can take off. The little brother just does his own thing. And so I told Jason, you head on back that way, make contact with him. And I went basically, if you're looking straight at the log, I went left, Jason went right. I continued along with this ravine to my left, and like kind of I wouldn't really say it was a trail. It was just a pathway along the edge between that and the barbed wire fence. And as I kept going around to my left, traveling in a sense kind of maybe east, northeast, or in this property line, there was kind of a hill that started to kind of pick up and build as I was walking. And so it was to my right was this thick brush covered hill, a lot of overgrowth everywhere. And it was to my right as I'm walking along with the ravine to my left, trying to give the listeners a view, kind of an idea of what I'm walking with. At this point, I'm in my gut, I'm thinking that's weird to see this half of this log there in the middle of nowhere. And it wasn't like it was a pre-cut log. This was like one that had fallen and been picked up and carried. It wasn't cut lumber by anybody by any means. It wasn't a perfect cut or anything. It was half of a down tree that was put there. That got me thinking, what did that? And as I continued on this path, I kept getting that weird feeling that something was watching me. It went back to that same feeling on the first night when something was circling our campsite. And I remember hearing something moving to my right up above me a little bit on this hill. In my mind's eye, it was almost like, I'm not going to believe it. I'm not going to look. And something caught my attention off to the left. And I think it was if I remember correctly, it was an armadillo that was down along the creek on this ravine. And I was looking at that for a second as it was moving away from me. And then I thought I heard like a branch break to my right over my shoulder. And I remember looking up, and there was a little bit of I don't want to say it was sun. It wasn't sun that was out completely at that point. This was kind of a mist and sprinkle coming down. But there was enough of a break in the clouds, and where I was looking, that's when I caught a glimpse of something. And it was almost like, I might as well just say when I look at it and I play it back in my mind, it was almost like an arm, like a torso. The color was kind of a matted brown, almost kind of a burnt orange, almost maybe a tinge of that, but it was more of a brownish black kind of color mixed in. But it looked like an arm that was pushing down the undergrowth, just pushing down, and behind it was a very large, dark figure, almost like it was pushing that stuff down to get a glimpse of me. And I just froze and I looked at it, and then as quick as it had pushed that down, it let the undergrowth go, and you could see the shrubs and the trees kind of shake there, and then it stayed put there. At this point, I was trying in my mind, trying to play it off. Was it a deer? What was this thing? And it's when I pretty much I kind of squatted down behind the nearest tree that was right next to me, and kind of didn't want to look again. And I called Jason I called the guys on the walkie, and I let them know that I just saw something. And I think at first they thought I was joking with them, but I think by the time they heard my voice, they realized that I wasn't joking. And there was something up there, and I'm going to say it was a good 25 to 30 yards up to above me along the hill. And it was just sitting there. I think at that point, it might have been, that whole time might have been, kind of like paralleling us. And I just wasn't paying attention to it until I heard the rustling. And I looked back. What I thought was weird is when I heard the rustling in the brush is when I wasn't paying attention, and I was looking down at that armadillo down in the ravine. And it was almost like it took its chance to look at that point at me when I wasn't paying attention on the trail itself. It looked like the forearm and a bicep of a very large creature of some sort. That's what it looked like to me. And literally, doing if it was me up in the woods looking at somebody, I'd be pushing stuff out of my way to look. It was like going hunting. You moved shrubs and things out of your way to get a clear line of sight. And that's when I looked up and saw that. It noticed that I saw it, and it quickly released that brush, and you see the brush move. And that's when I was like, oh God, what the hell was that? And that's when I called Jason and Craig on the walkie, and basically at that point I hunkered down behind the tree and was waiting for them to get there.
Well, when he first called me on the walkie, and I don't know what kind of language I can use, Wes, I don't know, but his exact words were, I just saw something. I don't know what the F it was. And my response was, quit screwing with me. I know you're full of shit. He's like, dude, I'm for real. Get here as quick as you can. And he's like, I'm not bullshitting y'all. I really just saw something. So I'm sitting there trying to get to him to respond to me. And then for about a good minute, I'm sitting there. And, when it's your brother, or your family member, your whole world just kind of stops moving around you. And I'm just sitting there staring at the walkie-talkie. And I'm like, Brian, what'd you see? Tell me, man, what'd you see? And he didn't say nothing for a minute. So I'm thinking, shit, I got to get moving. So, and running is the last thing I want to do because I'm a, football coach. So I take off sprinting as fast as I can. And then when I start getting a little closer, I can see where he's hunkered down. And so when I get there, I kind of run and I kind of jump down right by him. And I was like, dude, what's going on? What'd you see? And this is probably the second time I've ever seen my brother tear up. When I looked at him, he had his eyes were watering. He had tears coming out of his, running down his face. And he's like, dude, he said, I'm for real. I just saw something. And right then, it's just it's that concrete moment where holy shit, this is for real. Because I know when you see that look in your brother or one of your family members' face, it's legit. And so I remember I put my hand on his shoulder and I was like, are you all right, man? And he kind of nodded his head. And I was like, where's it at? And he wouldn't say nothing. And I kind of like gave him a shake because he was kind of like in a little state of shock a little bit. And so I shook him again. I was like, Brian, where is it? I was like, is it close? And then all he did, I remember he took one of his hands and just pointed over his shoulder and gave me a direction. And I remember I started to raise up to look. And next thing I know, like, he grabbed me and like pushed my shoulder back down. And I told him, I was like, dude, I want to see. And he's just like, just be quiet because I think it's still there. So I remember I raised up and I couldn't see nothing. And like you said, it's kind of like a hill that starts sloping up into the woods. And I was like, Brian, I don't see nothing. He kind of came up with me and he kind of tilted my head to where it was. And he's like, it's right over there. Look. And I was like, can you still see it right now? He's like, yeah. And he's like, he kind of pointed to where it was. And then I started looking a little close, and sure enough, you could see this big mass like behind this section of trees. At this point, it was almost like it was trying to intimidate us. It was weird because you always hear stories about you hear vocalizations and you smell something. And maybe because we're upwind from it, I don't know. But I know we didn't smell anything. But one thing I will say, like, whatever was alive in the forest at that time making noise, it was completely dead silence. I mean, it brought the eeriness right back to, where it was. And it was almost a feeling of, I've been in the woods a lot growing up, and it was almost like that feeling like something shouldn't have been there. And like everything else in the woods was like feeling the same thing, like, oh shit, we all got to be quiet now. And it was weird. And especially a place like that, you can hear the crickets, the frogs and everything. And it was just dead silent. And I think that's what helped me really zone in on where it was, because you could hear like the brushes start, like shaking and stuff like that. And then next I know, my brother was like, hey, grab that stick over there and beat it on the fence post right here. And so I did, and I hit it on the fence post. And while he was looking, it really didn't do anything. And so I beat it a couple more times. This went on for about 10 minutes, and you could still see the shadow sitting there like it was just checking us out. I want to say about after 10 minutes, I had knocked like 3 times real loud. And the third one was loud enough where I actually broke the stick I had. And next we know, about 30 seconds later, we get 2 knocks back. And so when we heard that knockback, I'm thinking the same thing my brother thought on the first night, like somebody screwing with us. So I got on the walkie-talkie and kind of crouched down on the ground. I was like, Craig, is that you? Are you messing with us? Craig's yelling on the thing like, I'm running and trying to find y'all's dumbasses. Where y'all at? I was like, dude, there's something over here for real. Me and Brian both. I was like, Brian saw it, and I don't know what I see right now. And he's like, all right, I'm trying to get there. And I said, he's like, how do I find y'all? And I told him, just find the barbed wire fence and start running. And he's like, all right, when I get close enough to y'all, I'm going to just start yelling or screaming. And I was like, no, don't do that, dude. Just when you find the barbed wire fence, you'll see us like on the other side of it. So when I knocked that third time, and when I was on the radio talking to him, he's yelling full blast on the radio. So I kind of noticed, like, when me and Brian both kind of crouched back up to look, Brian said it's not there anymore.
When I looked up and didn't see it anymore, and your eyes, you're trying to focus and look in that area, and you're looking into that brush, a rock about the size of a man's closed fist came down. I would say it went over our heads. I would say it was it was to the right of you, Jason, from what I remember.
Yeah.
And it went across that path. It kind of stopped almost towards the ravine. And at that point, I was like, did Craig throw a rock at us? But the motion, the direction it came is not possible, because he's running from west to east towards us. This rock came from above us, from a northerly direction, coming down at us, down the hill. And at that point, I was ready. I'm done. Let's load up and go.
Yeah. From my point of view, and I know adrenaline's flowing in all of us, from that point on, from when the rock is tossed, you can hear Craig off in the distance, like yelling, like, where y'all at? Where y'all at? And as he's getting closer, he's getting louder. So we know Craig's getting closer, and Brian's like telling him like be quiet on the thing, but he's not listening. So when I go up to look in that general direction, back a little bit away from where we originally saw it, it looked like it retreated a little bit, and then you could almost see there was a section of trees, and you can almost see the outstretched arms. And this is really the time when I saw it the best I could see it. You could see the outstretched arms up into the hilltop, and it was good enough where you could see the burnt oranges color of the mass, the torso, and it had its arms draped around two trees, and it was rocking back and forth. And I kind of explained to Wes like the mass of it. I've been around a lot of defensive linemen, defensive ends, and offensive linemen. The mass of this thing was not even. You couldn't even see it on either side of there was no empty space when it was rocking between the trees. And these trees were probably a good 3 feet apart from each other. And it was almost like rocking like it was agitated. And the louder Craig got as he was running in our direction, the more and more it started rocking like faster, like it didn't know what to do. And me and Brian were sitting there looking at it the whole time thinking like, in the back of my mind, like, is this thing going to just go, chase after Craig and get Craig? And at this point, I mean, I hate to say it, like, we didn't even call Craig back on the walkie-talkie because we're just sitting there looking. I guess in the back of our mind, we would have saw it went his direction. We would have, maybe called him. But it was almost like it was agitated or it was getting pissed off hearing Craig yell coming our way. And then next thing we know is Craig is getting into like our viewing sight in our peripheral. You just hear all this commotion and all these shrubs just rattle and stuff like that. And I remember myself seeing the two trees that had its arms on. I remember seeing those two trees shake. And then next thing you know, it's just like everything gets quiet again. And it's almost like it just wanted to make a big fuss, and then it just got pissed off and just like ran out of the area.
It was almost like the underbrush exploded. It was making its presence known. And as Craig approached yelling, that was it. It took off, and it was gone at that point.
Wow. How was that?
I was completely immersed into that story. Wow. Yeah.
It's such intensity. And I think that's the thing is we try to conceptualize what these people are experiencing, but I don't think it's possible unless you're in that situation, unless you can view and feel that tension and the size of these things. When Don and I were recently we went to Kelso for the Squatch Fest over there in Washington State in July. And over there, they had like an 8-foot statue of Bigfoot. And, you always try to conceptualize, what is 8 feet? What is that like? You look at your floor to your ceiling, and that's generally in most houses about 8 feet. And then you try to fill that up in your mind with what would a big, wide, hairy, incredible Hulk look like. And you can try to grab onto that. But when I was standing next to that statue, it's like, oh, this is what that is. And this, and this is a statue. But when you listen to the reports and the encounters people have with these 8 feet of really pissed off, hairy being with incredible force and power, I mean, it's got to be absolutely terrifying.
There was something I was thinking about during that story too, was just like in last night's story, we didn't really get to talk about it, mm-hmm. But when for that, I think it was the first Germer file story that we played yesterday, they were talking about how I don't remember what noise he said. It was like a coo or however he described it, but then all of a sudden he said he heard 5 different like coos or sounds coming mm-hmm. from different directions. Like,
right.
Are these? It's a good. it's a good thought. Like, are these things really ever alone? Is it just maybe one's on the ground looking, and then there are like 5 others different places staring at you too? Like, maybe you're only seeing one.
No, that's generally what's believed. In fact, I many stories start with you saw one, and the next thing we know, we heard footsteps to our sides and went over to the other side. It's like there's one, and it seems really strategic. That's the part that really blows me away, is that they are so strategic. Like, they will let you see one of them, but while you're seeing that one, you've probably got 2 or 3 other ones positioning, at your flanks and behind you that you don't see, and you don't know they're there. And so many times people will be looking at that one and watching it, and all of a sudden there'll be a roar directly behind them. They'll spin around and look, and by the time they look back, the one they were looking at is gone. So it's like these distraction techniques. Then they utilize it with just psychological precision. But I would never, ever assume that that's the only one. I would never, ever assume that, because they seem to be in family groups. They always seem to be, at least in cooperative groups. Like, it's not just usually one. There could be just a rogue. There's the stories of the Bigfoot rogues, of course, that are kind of on their own, and they don't really have a clan of their own yet. They probably reached the age of needing to be kicked out, because it happens. That's what happens in nature. You get big enough and they kick you out. Go fend for yourself now. So there could be this situation where there is just a rogue looking for some place to call home, for some mate or whatever. And so that is possible. But I think more times than not, if you're seeing one, you can almost guarantee there's at least 2 or 3 more that you're not seeing. And that's why I think, people talk about, I'll just shoot them. It's like, yeah, okay, you're going to shoot that one, but what are you going to do about the 3 other ones that you don't know where they are? And they're going to be really pissed seeing you drop grandpa, It's
true.
It's just not a good idea, because they are so precise. They have so much precision that's why people, talk about their intelligence. And what most people mean by that is they're not, going to sit down and put together a puzzle kit or a Lego set. They're not that kind of intelligence, but they are brilliant in their natural intelligence and in their strategy and in their hunting intelligence and in their ability to traverse their terrain with absolute grace and precision. There's a different kind of intelligence that we're dealing with here. I think that they also have a cognitive intelligence, like they have a reasoning. I think they have, deductive reasoning and probably are able to look at a situation and assess it and, figure out what that means for them. It's not like, it's not like a wild animal kind of intelligence. It's something more. But I don't know that, again, they aren't going to be probably, picking up a paintbrush and, making a nice scene and stuff like that. But it's a different kind of intelligence. But it's on our scale. It's on our par of intelligence. I'm pretty convinced. So what does that mean? Well, it means that we are sadly outclassed when we're in their world. Just tragically outclassed.
Yeah.
A squirrel is way off the charts, more capable than we are in the wilds. It's just, we just don't do well there.
It's not our home. It's not our homeland. That's theirs. That's all their world.
Rachel gets it right, says, Paranormal Portal, wasn't it Grover Krantz who said, if you shoot a Bigfoot, reload? I wasn't familiar with that, but that's a perfect saying. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. He was a brilliant guy. Yeah, I think they're very smart. They know what they're doing. And it's really funny because they really do psychologically screw with people. There's so many stories of people going into this campground place and it's not a campground per se, but it's a place where they've decided to camp out in the woods. Like backpackers talk about this stuff a lot. Claims coming from people that are, off the beaten path. And they'll go into a place and the first night they'll hear weird things. And maybe a few pebbles or things are thrown and there's this weird like agitation going on. And then the next night it might be sticks breaking or a tree going down and there's more pressure. And you can hear it in these stories that the Sasquatch are trying to edge people out. First they do it real calmly, just make it uncomfortable. But they very, very clearly use a psychological warfare to keep screwing with people until they're just to the point that they can't relax. They don't let you relax. They're keeping people in these really stress states. And people do get the hint. I mean, a lot of times it's just people get the hint with the rock thrown. It's like, okay, let's get out of here. This is weird. But if you stay, the activity will increase every night until it's absolutely unbearable. And maybe it does reach a point where if you don't get out by the time they're, throwing rocks in your camp and roaring and breaking branches, then the next step is probably pretty brutal. So, yeah.
Cold Stares even says, in Washington, loggers have reported Bigfoot sightings that pulled their attention one way, while others would destroy their equipment while they are distracted.
Oh, sure. Yeah. That makes perfect sense. I'm not familiar with the specific stories he's talking about. I'd love to hear them. I'd love to hear those stories. But, yeah, I mean, they're always distracting people. They are just so brilliant at what they do. And so this is an intelligence that I really believe rivals our own. Hi, Christy Sci-Fi. Good to see you. Glad you came in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What were you going to
do you think it's almost a survivorship bias to think that they're only there to kind of edge you out and all that when, because those are the only stories we hear about are the people who just get pushed out and edged out. But what about those disappearances too? Maybe there's more to it too.
That's the thing. And I think, I don't like to think of them as being horribly aggressive and capable of that. But I mean, these are
Sure.
beings that survive in the wild, and the wild is a pretty unforgiving taskmaster. I mean, if you want to live, you have to do some pretty incredibly harsh things to survive. Most of which is like killing game over and over, and hunting and competing maybe with other family groups for territory. I mean, I'm sure that they're probably always under some kind of pressure. And so these territorial displays, I think, are really important to pay attention to, because if you don't, well, I mean, researchers often push the envelope, and that's cool. I mean, they got testicles of steel or spines of steel or whatever you want to say, but to stick it out even through all this high pressure stuff. But I think to presume that there's no danger, I think is really unadvisable, because with this kind of strength, with this kind of speed, with this kind of ability, they could inadvertently snap your head off. I mean, they could maybe not be trying to really hurt you and really hurt you, and could end your life. I think that's, the missing 411, I'm sure that at least a portion of those are probably attributable to some cryptids, whether that be Dogman, whether that be Bigfoot, whether that be something else. It wouldn't surprise me at all. You got to understand, again, the laws of nature are really intense. And so maybe it's an older ones that can't quite run down the deer anymore. And we're about the lowest hanging fruit out there for, we are these little bags of meat walking around, and we're not fast. We're not strong. We're not graceful in the forests. We are pretty easy. And so what causes bears to start attacking people? Generally, it's, something's wrong, or they're not getting their usual stuff. So there's a imperative to survive. And sometimes if we're out there, we could be on the menu. And I don't like to think that way about these things. I'd love to think that they are just these incredibly gentle, wise forest giants that are, doing this more of a sentinel thing. And maybe there are some of those like that. But I think there's also some out there that aren't, that are just fine with the low-hanging fruit. So, I don't know. There's a lot of ideas. It's a lot of ideas. It's all wild speculation.
A lot of questions.
Yeah. I mean, nobody knows this stuff. Sasquatch do not eat people. I hope not, Christy. I really hope not. Because I'd love to believe that they are, they're on par with us. They're intelligent, that they respect our sovereignty and our right to live as most of us respect theirs, But, I gotta wonder, something is taking people that, and leaving no trace, that scent dogs won't even track. Well, one of the things with Bigfoot is dogs don't like to be around them. I mean, just naturally, they don't like to be around them. They get really timid. Really, people with really aggressive, like huge dogs, afraid of nothing. they will cower whenever these things are around. They will hide under beds. There's one story of a guy who had these seriously trained Rottweilers, a couple of huge dogs. Talked about how aggressively they defended their home, and suddenly they had an encounter with a Sasquatch, and he said, I didn't know where my dogs were. They were just gone, and I looked around the house and found them under my bed shaking.
First he says, Brent, they don't eat people I know, trust me.
Well, I hope you're right. I can't know for sure, and I don't know how you know that. I hope you're right. I really do, because I don't like the idea of that being a possibility. But I think if it's not them, something out there is eating people. Something out there is taking people. And I hope it's not them, but something is.
Yeah, and I mean, don't get me wrong. Like with the question about like the disappearances, I'm not saying that for sure those disappearances happen because of Sasquatch. It's more of a question, like more of just a what if, or it could be this. Because I don't know for sure. So just throwing around ideas and thoughts.
And I see Christy says it's the other. It's called a googway, and I've heard of those. I've heard of those many times. They are similar to a Sasquatch, but they are different. They are the more baboon-faced Bigfoot. There's what people are calling the googway, and they apparently have very sharp teeth and are very aggressive, not only to people but to Sasquatch as well. There's many stories of territorial disputes between Bigfoot and googway, and there's all kinds of crazy stories out there, and so maybe that's true. I can't pretend to know. I wish I could sit up here and go, nope, this is this, and this is not this, and this is why. I wish I could tell you guys that. I wish I had that knowledge, but I don't. All I know is I've heard a lot of stories, thousands of stories through the years, and I have heard of Bigfoot being very aggressive towards people. Again, maybe they had it coming. But it does happen, and if they're aggressive towards people, I don't know. If one was sick or injured and couldn't catch their local food, what are they going to do? Maybe they'd survive on roots and berries and plants and stuff. I hope so. But I know that we aren't much of a challenging prey for anything out there. We're just not, unless we're packing heat. Then of course we are. But otherwise, we are at an extraordinary disadvantage in the wild places. So I don't want people to be afraid of these things. I really don't. That's not the scope of the Paranormal Portal, but I just want people to be informed, because I think we do have to share this information, because many of us do love going into the wild places, going out to the woods, whether it's foraging for berries or mushrooms or hunting or camping, recreation, fishing. We are going out to these wild places, and so I think it's important that we at least have a bit of information to bring with us, because most of us don't know much about what's out there. So anyway, just some food for thought, folks. Again, I'm not trying to spread fear. I'm not trying to be sensational, but I just know that there's something going on out there. People are disappearing. Why is that? I don't know. And I don't know if anybody knows, but I think there's a lot of ideas. So
yeah.
Anyway, food for thought, folks, but I think that's a show.
That's a good show.
We went into overtime. Cold Stare says there is a rising belief among some that aliens and Bigfoot are connected. They say there are doorways to other places that we could be taken through and not return. I've thought about that, Cold Stares, about the portals. I think there are naturally occurring portals that could be the result of ley lines and quartz deposits and many things that may work, to ionize the quartz and possibly create a doorway. I've covered hundreds and hundreds of stories throughout the years on this show of people walking through the forest and boom, they're somewhere else. They turn a corner or duck under a tree and suddenly they're somewhere else. And it can be day, can be night. It could be a jungle compared to a forest, and like a whole different. They could have been on a plain, and suddenly they're on a mountainside, and then they'll back up, and they're right back where they are, and the whatever happened is over. Now, could it be some kind of weird psychological event? Maybe it's more psychic, but people do allegedly encounter portals. Now, as far as the alien thing. Here's the thing, and again, I know there's a lot of people that do draw the correlation between Sasquatch and UFOs. And maybe there's something to that. I mean, I really don't know, but here's what I do think. And I'll tell you why. I do think we've heard hundreds of tales of Bigfoot being absolutely curious, coming and looking in windows, watching what we're doing. They're watching children play. They're watching campers. They seem to really enjoy watching us because I think their nature is incredibly inquisitive and curious. And so when we see lights in the sky, what do? We go out and we check them out. Wow, do you see that? Tell everybody and come look at these lights. What is this? This is very strange. Now, people say, oh, I saw a flying saucer, and then right after that there was a Bigfoot in the area. And so they correlate that to mean that maybe the saucer dropped off the Bigfoot, or maybe it got onto the saucer and flew away. But what if it just means they saw the lights too and are like, hey, what's that? Come on, let's go check it out. And so their inquisitiveness is well known, I believe. And so is it beyond the scope of reason that they see those lights too and are like, hey, what is that? Come on, let's go check it out. And they do. Now, another story that I got firsthand from a person that emailed me is she thought it was a dream, but I think she was abducted. But she said it was the most surreal, like lucid dream ever. And what happened was she found herself inside of this weird room on a table. And she said she kind of opened her eyes and there were these aliens looking at her. And she didn't know what to do. And they kind of saw that she was there. She was subdued to a point, but she said she was able to look around the room. And as she looked around the room, there was another table nearby in this craft. And on that table sat a Sasquatch. And she said it looked just like a Bigfoot. And she said, I was so mesmerized by its eyes because I looked over and there it was sitting on a table just like me. And she said I could see the intelligence in its eyes as it was trying to understand what was going through. And it's like we shared a moment where we looked at each other, both of us. And so if aliens are coming and possibly abducting people for whatever reasons, running tests, doing whatever they're doing, is it too much to believe that they would also be abducting Bigfoots, other natural occurring primates or bipedal beings? Maybe there's a correlation there where they also get abducted. And so there's also a claim out there that I heard a couple of years ago where some person believes that when the Bigfoot get to a certain age, they're taken away to a different planet. And I don't know. I mean, there's so many possibilities, and it's not up to me to try to determine for any of you what is real and what isn't. I just put it all on the table and say, here's the information that I've heard, and real or not, I can't tell you, but it is curious. So, Cold Stare says, see, that is how I think. They know what is not normal in their area. Wouldn't they go look? Exactly. That's what I think too. But, I don't know. I wish I could say for certain that was the case, but that's just what occurs to me. They're curious, they're intelligent, and they're probably going to want to check out what the hell's up with those lights. We don't see those before. Let's go look. Because I think they are territorial. They have their areas that are their areas, and if the lights appear in their areas, they're probably going to want to know what they're doing. So, but at any rate,
just bringing the discussion to the table is the important part.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And I love that about this show. And I love that about this community that we have, is that we can have these questions, have these ideas to throw around possibilities. Turtle of the North Shore. Does anyone know the TV documentary that looked to be made in the 70s where a family in a motorhome had a Bigfoot reach through the open window and grab the father? I don't personally. I don't. It sounds kind of like, what's that show? Boggy Creek, but I could be wrong. I don't know. I haven't seen that either. So that's all you can do. Absorb as much info and as many stories as possible and put the pieces together in a way that makes sense to you. Exactly. The fourth color. That's exactly right. And, again, who knows? If we find the answers, what do have to discuss? Yeah, exactly. If we had all the answers, we wouldn't need to do a show. I guess you're right.
True.
You're right. So that's kind of the fun part is that, again, that's one of the reasons I started the show. I love the mystery. I love the possibilities. I love a world still full of magic and the unknown. And maybe that's a personal bias, but I don't want to live in the world where everything's categorized and labeled and it's known. That to me doesn't sound near as fun. So
no mystery anymore.
yeah, exactly. Maybe it was crazy, but me and my friend got out. I'm sorry. What is he talking about? Oh, I don't know what that's about. Okay. I've been looking for it for decades and I never found it. Huh. Yeah, I don't know. I wish I knew what to tell you, brother. I don't know. I don't know that video. Thumbs up to you, Wen. Good to see you guys. But, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's going to conclude our journey through the portal. You guys have a couple of great days. Again, I'm going to be releasing the new podcast in just minutes after I get done with the show here, or maybe about 20 minutes or a half hour. So watch for that. And again, thank you all for being here and being a part of the journey. As always, it's a sincere pleasure, and I love the conversation. Thank you to all of you who are participating in the chat about the conversation. That's really cool. Blessings to you too, Brooks. Thank you. And I wish you all a good Monday, Tuesday. We won't be doing live shows then, so we'll be back on Wednesday and on Saturday of next weekend. Those of you that are familiar with the show, you may be familiar with our wonderful friend, the Paranormal Portal psychic, Deb Varner, will be on the show on next Saturday, doing free readings to callers to the show. So if you want a reading to figure out what's going on in your world, by all means, call in on Saturday night. Again, that'll be 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So join us on Saturday night. And we usually do overtime too. So if we don't fit it in the 2-hour show, we'll go into overtime on YouTube and we'll continue the readings till we got everybody read. So, all right, guys, put that on your calendar. Anyways, Sheldon, anything in closing?
Absolutely. For anyone new here or anyone not joined yet, you can join our Discord channel to stay more in touch with us in the community, have some great discussions, share some stories that you find, whatever you guys want to do. Find it right here in the chat, and usually on there, and I can answer any questions, and so can Dad.
When I'm there, yeah. I do try to check on it several times a day. So, but anyway, guys, that's all I got. Love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. Love you all, and I'll see you on Wednesday night. But watch for the podcast. It's available on all the players: Pandora, Spotify, iHeart, iTunes, CastBox, Google Play, Stitcher, etc., etc., etc. Podbean. There's many. All right. That's all I got, though. Good night, everybody.
Good night.